Right. It is 6 o'clock and we have adjourned the executive session and move into this council session. And I would like to ask you to please stand as our city attorney, Mike Hayes, leads us in prayer and the pledge.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, the way you care for us and call us, the way you've drawn us to this community to live and work and to play. We just ask your blessing upon our meeting time here tonight. We ask that you be with council and the other public servants. Give us all wisdom and give us all discernment and help us to be patient with comments made and considerations given. We ask all these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We mentioned a few protocols regarding the council meeting. If anyone present wants to speak on an agenda item, they need to sign up and present a speaker's request form to the city secretary here in advance of the item being read into the record by the city secretary. When speakers are called, they're to come to the microphone and begin by stating their name and address for the record. Note that public comment periods are for council to set aside time to specifically hear from you. Any questions that you might have will not be responded to until after public comments have concluded. Thank you for observing these matters in the meeting. At this time, let's have announcements of community interest, and then I've got one following Mr. Cunya's presentation.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Council. This is one of those weeks, and I think we're not going to meet again for 3 weeks. So we've got just a couple of announcements between now and then, but big events. The Daddy and Daughter Dance, April 2nd, 5 to 8 p.m., and that's at the Happy State Bank Expo Hall. I think there's still tickets available for that, so we encourage dads and daughters to go attend that. Tickets have to be purchased in advance. They won't be selling them at the door, so be sure and go and get that. Also, Concerts by the River starts April 8th. Originally, we were going to start about 3 weeks ago, but we had some bad weather, so we had to push that one back. You can see it's on the April 29th. So we'll start that on April 8th. We'll actually have 2 concerts in April. A lot of fun out there. Look forward to that. And then, lost it. There we go. Hang on. I had to put this up. Wee Lads won the soccer title for 2 reasons. One, I like the name Wee Lads. Sounds like something that Sean Connery would come up with. Wee Lads. And these guys have played in the title game for like 4 or 5 times in a row and haven't won. So
Good.
I think Josh Rodriguez, who used to work at the Parks and Recreation Department, saw it on Facebook and said, finally. So we're happy for him. We just want to put that up there. And with that, Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. I want to announce that our city manager has executed the real estate contract on the proposed site of the public safety complex. Let me tell you, if you want to look at this proposed site, you're going out 27 past Shriner. When you come to K-Pub, which is on Clearwater Paseo, you take a left behind the community church. That next street is Rio Monte. Yeah, Rio Monte. And that vacant lot there is where the proposed site is. It's out there by the jail and by some tax-assisted housing, both family and senior adults, and by K-Pub. But anyway, I wanted to pass that on if you'd like to check that out. Do we have other items of community interest?
I just want to say the mega food drive will happen Monday at Light on the Hill. And I think I think it was in KDT's paper, Kerrville was one of the best places to retire again. So that's why we're all here, or many of us are here, so.
All right. Okay, we have a proclamation to present. I'd like for the folks in the theater center to please come up to the dais. Hey, tell the folks your name and positions.
Brenda Thompson, Executive Director at the Dieter Center. I'm Paige Sumner, and I'm the Director of Philanthropy at Dieter Center.
All right, good. Here is this, the proclamation. City of Kerrville Proclamation. Whereas 50 years ago, on March 22nd, 1972, President Nixon signed into law a measure that amended the Older Americans Act of 1965 to include a national nutrition program for individuals 60 years and older. This landmark law has helped to fund community-based organizations like Meals on Wheels, and it is still the only federal program designed specifically to meet the nutritional and social needs of older adults. And whereas this year, Meals on Wheels programs from across the country are joining together for the March for Meals awareness campaign to celebrate 50 years of success and to garner the support needed to ensure these critical programs can continue to address food insecurity and malnutrition, combat social isolation, enable independence, and improve health for years to come. And whereas a group of volunteers in Kerrville and Kerr County established a program to serve seniors both congregate and home-delivered meals 52 years ago. Volunteers for the Meals on Wheels program are the backbone of the program, and they not only deliver nutritious meals to homebound seniors at risk of hunger and isolation, but also caring concern and attention to their welfare. The Meals on Wheels program provides nutritious meals to seniors throughout this area that help them maintain their health and independence. It also provides a powerful opportunity for social connection to help combat the negative health effects and economic consequences of loneliness and isolation. And whereas the Meals on Wheels program deserves the recognition for the heroic contributions and essential services they have provided amid the COVID-19 pandemic and will continue to provide to local communities, our state, and our nation long after it is over. And whereas the senior population is increasing substantially and it is needed now to support local Meals on Wheels programs through federal, state, and local funding, volunteering, donations, and raising awareness to ensure these vital services can continue to be delivered for another 50 years. Now, therefore, I, Bill Blackburn, Mayor of the City of Kerrville, Texas, do hereby proclaim March 2022 as a month celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Older Americans Act Nutrition Program and urge every community member to take this month to honor our Meals on Wheels programs, the seniors they serve, and the volunteers who care for them. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Kerrville to be affixed this 22nd day of March 2022. All right. Okay, any word for us?
Well, we just want to say we could not do this without our volunteers in our community that support us financially and their time and talent. That we have over 200 volunteers that donate over 21,000 hours of service for our Meals on Wheels program, and we couldn't do it without all of them. This week is our Champions Week, and so we have some people coming. I know Chief's going to be there tomorrow, and you're going to be there, and other people are all going to be there to come and do ride-alongs. So if you haven't signed up yet, there's still time if you want to, and if you ever want to do it. But this week, you get breakfast. I'm making breakfast every day. So this is a good week to come. But you can come anytime and do a ride-along because there was 5 people today that did it, and I waited when they came back. I wanted to hear what they had to say, and it was amazing. They said, I've been living here and I did not know what this was like. And I had no idea what it was like to walk up to that house. And that person, he said, do you have to ring the doorbell? And I said, oh no, they're waiting on you. They're waiting for you. So I said, it was very eye-opening to the people that were volunteering today to come and do the ride-along. So we thank you so much for the city support. City supports us in our programs annually, and the county supports us in our program. And I'm just so proud to say that we deliver close to 70,000 meals a year to our seniors in this community. And we can keep going. If you know anybody that needs a hot meal, a senior 60 and above, just give us a call, and we'll certainly see if we can get you set up on the Meals on Wheels. So, anyway. Yeah.
60 and above, I could have been getting hot meals for 15 years.
Well, you have to be kind of homebound.
Oh, okay,
And you have to
okay.
kind of be
All right,
aware.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think you're still getting out and about. But
Yeah.
when you retire and need it, we'll be there for you.
All right, let's turn this way for some pictures.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
all right, great.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
sure.
If I may add, I did my ride along yesterday, and it's just amazing the smiles that you get when you open that door with that lunch. And what you guys do is just outstanding. It's great.
Appreciate it.
All right, we now come to the Visitors Citizens Forum. This is provided to allow citizens who have signed up ahead of time to address the council on an item not related to another specific item on the agenda. And if you sign up with the city secretary, no discussion may take place since items are not posted. The council may not discuss items raised, but may later refer questions to follow up or some other kind of follow up at that time. And you have 4 minutes. Do we have anyone signed up to speak?
One speaker.
Sorry?
One speaker.
Okay. Let's have that one speaker.
Judy Jackson.
Hello, I'm Judy Jackson and my address is 105 Celia Circle North in Kerrville. And I am here to request an addition be made to this current city ordinance regarding smoking. Currently, Article 3 of the ordinance prohibits smoking in most public buildings, with a few exceptions. One of those exceptions, under Section 58 through 69, number 6, allows smoking, quote, in buildings specifically designated as bingo halls prior to the adoption of this ordinance. However, there is no mention as to what happens to if this building is no longer licensed and operating as a bingo hall. I am the executor of the estate of Michael Tivey, who has left a substantial donation to the VFW on Thompson Drive with the stipulation that the money be used to diminish and or eliminate smoking in the facility. Although years ago the VFW did in fact have a licensed bingo hall, which was adjacent to the bar, they were forced to relinquish their license to the bingo commission with the stipulation that they would not be able to obtain one in the future. I have attempted over the last several years to settle with the VFW under the terms of this will, to no avail. The VFW continues to smoke in the bar, which has never been part of the bingo hall. They are not interested in reducing or eliminating smoking and are operating under the assumption since they once had a bingo hall, they would still be able to smoke. The area where they are smoking clearly falls under the definition of a bar. Both smoking and non-smoking veterans have fought very hard for our country, and we should protect and honor both. Excuse me. At times, there have been veterans on oxygen sitting directly next to a smoker. Other times, veterans come in to join and immediately turn around and leave because of the smoke. The monies bequeathed to the VFW are more than sufficient to cover the cost of building an area for smoking, which could satisfy both the smokers and the non-smokers, and it would also prevent employees, guests, and members from being subjected to the secondhand smoke. By simply adding the words like, while operating as a licensed bingo hall, to this portion of the ordinance, it could clear up the issue of a bingo hall that is no longer in operation, and we could begin constructing a smoking area for the members, employees, and their guests. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have copies of the ordinance. I know y'all have. we've
Okay.
read
Please.
them. I know y'all have access to them, but.
Mr. Hoppy, to whom would that be referred to for consideration?
Do that. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Jackson is the appropriate staff member and get in touch on the details of her request.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you. Okay. Now we come to consent agenda. These items will be considered together unless a council member or someone else pulls one. I don't want to pull one, but on C, I just want to note, I noted this earlier and the correction's been made. The list of the names of the committee members, Mr. Paxton read the recommended members for election. Okay. After Wendy Anderson, it says Christ Chednoy. Now, he's a fine guy, but I don't think he has reached divinity. So it's Chris Chednoy. Okay.
Chris.
All right. We have a motion.
I have additional comments to this. I want to ask our attorney, should I ask for the agenda item to be removed, or can I make my, okay. Then I'll just ask for that one to be removed, just with what's on here,
Okay.
so we don't violate any law there.
All right.
But I think that's what, 4C?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the one
4C.
that's one I request to
All right.
remove.
Do we have a motion regarding 4A, 4B, and 4D?
I so move.
Second?
Motion second. All in favor of those four? Okay. And now, Mr. Garcia on 4C.
Just because I didn't want to get into too much further discussion without actually being on the item to violate the Open Meetings Act. I did note that the date on it does say March 22nd on the one that we have here, and these may be just getting ready for this meeting's minutes. There's that. There's also on number 2 presentations, it says that we had the Dietrich Center March for Meals proclamation, which was done today. I think there are maybe a couple of other things that we're doing here today that were just on the minutes. So just those minor corrections. Nothing to do with the correction that was made to the minutes page,
Okay. All right.
if that makes sense. So I will move to approve our city council meeting minutes held on March 8th on 2022 with those corrections to reflect the action taken at that meeting.
Okay. Motion, is there a second?
I second.
And a second. All in favor, let it be known by the raised hands, and it passes unanimously. Now, 5A, from Chino.
Ordinance number 2022-13, an ordinance amending Chapter 50, Fire Prevention and Protection of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Kerrville, Texas, by adding a new section, 50-5, to adopt the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA 1194, standard for recreational vehicle parks and campgrounds, adopting local amendments to said code, amending the city's fire code, as to the fire apparatus, access roads, providing for a penalty for violation of any provision hereof, and providing other matters related to the subject. We have no citizen speakers.
Okay. Mr. Paxton.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is a request to change or to adopt the NFPA 1194. That is a national set of design standards for RV parks, so that when we are working with some of those newer projects, we have a set of standards that we can give them that delineate what kind of the widths of the roads, the separation between the parking spaces for the RVs. Just a nice, clean document that has a national set of standards that we can work with and our customers can work with as well. The access roads also relates to 6A. The access road, the standard fire code requires a certain distance between access roads for a development or a subdivision. As you know, with our topography and some of our infill projects, that doesn't always fit the exact parameters within the code. So the fire marshal and the fire department went through and took a look at those requirements and some of the projects that we worked on recently, and came up with this amendment to be a little more flexible and still fit within the scope of the fire department operations should there be any event on some of these new developments. It gives a little more flexibility on the location of those access points and kind of move the threshold up to the developments that would require 2 separate access points.
So adopting these national standards, however, we're grandfathering in the existing RV parks?
That is correct.
Okay.
Any future phase of those existing parks would follow these rules, but it is not retroactive, so the existing parks would not have to update.
All right. Do we have anyone to speak to this?
No, sir.
Okay. We have a motion on this matter?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2022-13 on first reading.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right.
All
We got a second, motion second, all in favor, if you'd let me know, raise hands, it's unanimous. Okay, now we move to a public hearing, if you'll read that in for us.
Ordinance 2022-15, an ordinance amending Chapter 82 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Kerrville, Texas, such chapter more commonly known as the city's subdivision code, by amending Section 82-53Q of said code to change requirements for points of access into residential subdivisions and aligning this section with the changes to the fire code and providing other matters related to this subject. We have no citizen speakers, but this is a public hearing.
It is a public hearing, okay. If you'll raise the volume just a little bit.
Yes. This is a section of the subdivision code that relates to that access or the number of access points required for a residential subdivision. The subdivision code required 2, regardless of the number of residential lots or units. Based on those changes to the fire code, so that they are consistent, we're removing that requirement for 2 for all size subdivisions and deferring back to the fire code for that required access. So a smaller subdivision that would just be a single cul-de-sac or a single entryway would still be allowed. This is just to make the subdivision code consistent with the fire code.
All right. Council, any questions? All right. Anyone to speak to this matter? Even if you have not signed up as a public hearing, you can speak to it.
Bruce does. Bruce.
Hey, yes, Mr. Strachey.
Bruce Strachey, 615 Earl Garrett Street. And I just want to point out that I moved here about 15 years ago, and 15 years ago, staff and council would not be looking at what we're talking about tonight. And we have had such a great improvement to our staff and our councils over the years because of citizen involvement and working together and really finding the best ways forward. I had a chance to meet with the chief and the fire marshal recently about this particular issue and another one. And this is the kind of thing of keeping our ordinances up to national standards, up to national building codes and such that we didn't have in years past. And I just want to compliment you all and remind the citizens what a great job our staff and our council are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Bruce.
Bruce.
Thank you. All right, if there are no other speakers, what's your pleasure on this one?
I move that we adopt and approve ordinance number 2022-15.
I'll second.
We got a motion second. All in favor, if you'd let me know the raised hands. It passes unanimously. Okay, 7A, please.
7A, ordinance number 2022-02, second reading. An ordinance amending Chapter 60 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Kerrville, Texas, such chapter more commonly known as the city's zoning code, by amending said code to include adding new definitions, revising the requirement for variances, requiring signs for notification, and other amendments as provided herein, providing a cumulative clause, providing for severability, providing an effective date, ordering publication, and providing other matters related to the subject. And we have no citizen speakers.
Since this is second reading, there's no staff presentation. Are there any questions on this matter?
I move that
Yes.
we approve ordinance number 2022-02 on second reading.
All right,
I second.
got a motion second. All in favor, let it be known by the raised hand. Passes unanimously. All right, 7B, please.
Ordinance number 2022-14, second reading. An ordinance amending Chapter 26, Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 9, Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals of the Code of Ordinances, City of Kerrville, Texas, by decreasing the membership of regular members and amending the membership qualifications for the board, containing a cumulative clause, containing a savings and severability clause, establishing an effective date, and providing other matters related to the subject. We have no citizen speakers.
All right. Any questions, council? If not, is there a motion for,
I'll move that we approve ordinance number 2022-14 on second reading.
Second.
Mr. Garcia, second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, let it be known by the raised hand. I just anticipated you seconding. Okay. 8A,
Resolution 14-2022, a resolution authorizing the city to utilize the design-build method for the construction and rehabilitation of the city's buildings located at 529 Water Street and more commonly known as the A.C. Shriner House, and authorizing other related actions as part of this method. We have no
Right.
citizen speakers.
I'm sorry, did we
No
do?
citizen
Okay, no
speakers.
speakers, okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to answer any questions we have. This is a workshop that we brought to you last Tuesday, where we compared the competitive bid process to the design build process and talked about what method we thought worked best for this particular situation. And we still believe it's the design build method. As part of state law, we have to come to council and ask for a resolution authorizing us to use that method. So that's why we're here tonight, asking for your authorization to approve the design build method for the AC Shriner Mansion.
Stuart, could you, for the public again, just differentiate between the two?
Okay, so you want to go through the whole presentation, or you just want a
Just-
couple minutes, not
yes.
the hour deal? Okay.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Just checking to see what you'd like. So the competitive bid process is typically what the city uses on public works projects. We go out and hire an engineering service, independent of a builder. We work with that engineering service to do the design work of the project that we need. We work through that whole scheme with that individual, and then we go out and bid those plans with builders. And then when the builder comes online, we work with the builder to build what was designed. City's always kind of in the middle of those two. If there's any discrepancies, the city's always kind of on the hook, if you will, to figure that out and work through those differences. The design build process is a little different, where the city goes out and gets qualifications for a designer and a builder to work together within a scope and within a cost. And we're able to award it to those and work through the details where they work together. The builder has input, and so he's not in the dark as the project. And we're able to establish a maximum cost that we'll get out of the project. So those were the two big differences. There are some other nuances there if you want me to go into more detail, but as a real broad brush, those are the main differences.
Thank you.
And state law does not allow us to use design build unless it's a specific case. It's only the large cities that.
So the
sizable?
design build process on what they call heavy civil is for communities over 100,000 people. Heavy civil would be roads, streets, drainage, water lines, sewer lines. This particular one is a little different. We can do it because it's the remodel of a building, and so our size city can do it as long as we have this resolution from council saying that they understand the process and that we're going to move forward with following all the state rules and regulations as well.
Okay.
Which we fully intend to do.
And we look for this to happen soon.
Excuse me?
We look for this to happen soon.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And in your opinion, does the design build effort save money in the long run?
I would think, yes, it's going to save money and it's going to save time. I mean, anytime you can bring everybody together at the beginning of a project, let them know what your whole budget is, let them know what the whole scope is, and let them work together towards a common goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're going to save a lot of time for sure, and time equals money.
Right.
Because you're not going to have those change orders, and they're going to know going in what they need to order and how they need to do it, and then they can schedule their work accordingly instead of having to bring them on kind of midway through your project, bring the builder in. So
Thank
yes,
you.
ma'am, I would think it would.
Yeah.
Hey, council, any questions?
Just comment that I think it's really important, and I really liked the idea playing off of what Councilmember Hughes said, that we establish when we send out those requests what our maximum price point is. Right?
Yes, ma'am, for sure.
Mhm.
And we'll do that, it won't be initially, we will select the team and we'll work with them, but as that team comes together and we're doing the design, we're gonna say, this is how much we have to
Right.
spend, what all can we do, so
Right.
we get our scope in line with what we have to spend.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, do I hear a motion on this matter?
I would like to authorize the city manager to finalize and execute the First Amendment to the AC Shriner House development.
Oh, we're in
Uh,
8A.
Oh,
right
wait,
before
go back
that.
to 8A.
This is resolution
8A.
1422.
8A. Oh,
But I like how you're thinking.
okay, approve resolution 14-2022.
Second.
Ahead of you.
Got a motion second. All right, all in favor, please let them be known by the raised hands. Thank you. Now, 8B,
Oh,
First Amendment to the AC Shriner House Development and Management Agreement between the City of Kerrville, Texas and the Heart of the Hills Heritage Center. We have no citizen speakers.
okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm gonna get my presentation up. Waiting on my presentation to come up.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, this is the First Amendment to the Development and Management Agreement between the City of Kerrville and the Heart of the Hills Heritage Center. And just to remind you, some of these slides were in the presentation last week on the workshop last week on the design build, because this is hand in hand with that. And just a reminder that it is part of Kerrville 2050, the guiding principle of D1 downtown, and then also the guiding principle D2, consider funding a downtown heritage center. And a reminder about the project milestones, where we've come from. The acquisition of the AC Shriner House was in 2015. It was a donation to the city. The initial adaptive building reuse study completed in 2015. The initial library campus master plan completed in 2017. The renovation project referenced and adopted Kerrville 2050 comprehensive plan in 2018. The execution of the MOU with HHHC to repurpose the facility in 2019. The revised library campus concept plan is completed in 2019. And then the public presentation of the project to the City Council in 2020. And then we had two wonderful grants from HEB and the HEB Foundation for the renovation in 2020 also.
And what were those totals?
Which
The HEB and the foundation, that was
those were $500,000 each.
dollars.
Yes,
each.
$500,000 each. Total $1 million, yes. And then in the Development and Management Agreement was presented to and approved by Council on January 26th of 2021. The document was executed by both parties, meaning the city and the HHHC, on February 1st. And what that agreement says is the city shall design, remodel, renovate, and develop the house into a public venue conducive to exhibiting displays and programs that reflect the culture and heritage of Kerr County and the Texas Hill Country, consisting of a quality museum. And HHHC shall lease, furnish, manage, maintain, and operate the house. The parties intend that the house is utilized as a multicultural, educational, recreational, and entertainment venue for the benefit of the public. And then a reminder of the renovation funding commitments for the Heart of the Hills Heritage Center. They had donations and they've raised their $1 million. The Peterson Foundation was $250,000. The Perry and Ruby Stevens Foundation was $250,000 with the ADA stipulation for elevator, ramp, and bathrooms. The Callow Foundation was $100,000. Community Foundation $100,000. The Meadows Foundation of Dallas is $50,000, and then the Friends of the Library gave a donation in $250,000, and that was provided to the city on behalf of the HHC board. $100,000 was received by the city already, and $150,000 will be delivered on May 1st. So the amendments to the Development and Management Agreement is Section 3.2B. And this is additions to the agreement are related to the Stevens Foundation and the Friends of the Library donations made to HHHC through the city. These donations have stipulations whereby they are to be used for compliance with accessibility laws, like the elevator, expenses that will provide fixtures and other items that will be permanently affixed to the house, and that was the Friends of the Library donation. The city will credit such funds as part of HHHC's $1 million commitment requirement and provide a dollar-for-dollar reimbursement back to HHHC for those two donations. And this is what it looks like in the agreement that y'all are going to approve, that we're asking you to approve. It's highlighted in blue. And then the next section is 4.2, and this is talking about the design build process that y'all just approved. It says additions to the agreement allow the city to enter into and perform all contracts necessary to complete the construction improvements in accordance with state law, which may include design build and or alternative delivery methods. And this is what that looks like in the document. The blue part is what is added. And the Heart of the Hills Heritage Center Board, who are here tonight, have reviewed and approved these amendments to the agreement. Dr. Rector has executed this document on behalf of the board, and we would like for y'all to approve that tonight. Do you have any questions for me?
My only question is, the money that is earmarked for elevators and stuff, is that gonna be enough money for that? Do you anticipate that that's gonna cover that or
That'll
not?
go towards part of it. It won't necessarily cover the full renovation of bathrooms and all of the ADA components. We don't think. We'll see
Okay.
once we get into that design build process, but I suspect it could go over that and go into some of those other funds.
Okay.
Can you go back to the page, in the meantime, while questions are going on, to the page where all the funding was with the Heritage Center received? Thank you.
Any other questions?
So just to recap, $250,000, just in the agreement, the city was going to do the construction renovations. HHHC is going to do the furniture, fixtures, and then the curation and
Displays, yes.
right, displays. So the HHHC gets a donation that stipulates things that the city has committed to do. So the $250,000 is going to be given to the city, and the city is going to exchange that for $250,000 that are unrestricted.
That is correct.
Okay, so we're not adding any money, we're just putting it in the right columns.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
I think this is transparent and clear.
Mhm.
And this amendment will be good for our auditors too.
Sure, okay.
So, to me, it seems that really the money was kind of, I don't know if you want to say the wrong way, but processed in a different way than it probably could have been done to prevent this, right? I mean, is the Friends of the Library, were they able to give money to the Heritage Center?
They could have, they wanted the money to stay with the building because the Friends of the Library mission is to provide support to the library or the library campus. And so they wanted that money to stay with the library. So they asked for it to be permanent fixtures for the house.
Okay. And so since that's the portion that the Heritage Center is responsible for under the agreement, could that still have been given to them under that agreement and with the expectation that that money would have been used for that as part of their $1 million commitment?
Well, their $1 million commitment was for their fixtures, things that they can take with them if they need to take it with them, their fixtures, their furniture, their displays, and that kind of stuff. So for them to use part of their $1 million, and that's what they determined, that their $1 million would take care of all of their displays, their furniture, and their fixtures. If they were to use some of that $250,000 of that money for items that are going to be permanently affixed, then that wouldn't be part of their stuff that they would need to purchase.
Okay, so that's because I know there are like two different sections within the first big paragraph that we're looking to amend. There's kind of two things going on there. So that's the first one. So that's the reason, and that's why we have the stipulation of the dollar for dollar reimbursement in there, right?
Yes.
So that although we receive the $250,000 on behalf of them, if they don't spend it all, it's for that reason. So they at least get reimbursed for things that are permanently in the house.
Yes.
Okay. And then the second part of it, well, I guess I'll stay on that. I would recommend that we add at the last sentence that the city will likewise credit such funds as part of their $1 million commitment requirement and provide a dollar for dollar reimbursement. I would recommend we say a dollar for dollar reimbursement up to $250,000. That way it's clear there in that sentence, up to $250,000 back to the Heritage Center to account for such funding and for the Heritage Center's compliance with section 4.6. Does that make sense?
I think there may be. Let me clarify. The the display elements and curation elements are intended to be well over 250,000. In fact, well over the 500,000 that would be the cumulative amount that is being transferred. In fact, they're estimated to be the 1 million, which was why the requirement really was for that full philanthropic effort to be fundraised at that $1 million. So it's going to be well over that 250. Does that make
So
sense?
we're gonna be reimbursing them more than the 250,000?
No, it would be
So-
the 250 from the Friends and the 250 from the other foundation, the Stevens Foundation.
Right. So what my recommendation was at the very last one, just regarding the Friends of the Library donation portion of it, is to add at that last sentence a dollar for dollar reimbursement up to $250,000. Is that
It's already in there, isn't it?
No.
It has pledged 250,000, a few lines above that. The Friends of the
Well-
Library has pledged the 250,000.
I don't find it necessary to ask them to account for every line item. I feel like they've raised the money and the city has raised the money, and there's a line item that doesn't match what the funding commitment is from HHAC, and there's a line item that the city has that matches what the funding is for HHAC. So it's really not doing anything but transferring the designations of the use of the funds. That's the way I see it.
Okay, all right, and that's fine. I won't push too much on that if that's a general understanding. The second portion of it, looking at that alone though, it appears that that's the part where that's the donation that the Heritage Center received that is now going to be stipulated for ADA compliance, and that's really the part that the city's taking on. What I have a concern with though is just the way that's all put there. I mean, I was confident in the original agreement as it was executed, and it seems that what we're doing is adding a lot of language into it to now explicitly exclude the ADA compliance portion of it and the accessibility portion, and that become I mean, it's already a responsibility of the city, but what the intent was, I guess, of that donor is to give the $250,000 to the Heritage Center. And so by the way we would be going about it, we would really be rejecting their donation by not really using it for that purpose, because they're going to get reimbursed anyways. So they got a donation, they spend it, but they're being reimbursed, so they're not really using that money for that if we're going to give them the money back. I think,
No,
and it's always, yeah.
I
No, go
don't
ahead.
want to interrupt you,
Sure, go
but what we're doing is this facility is going to benefit the Heart of the Hills Heritage Center. So the Heart of the Hills Heritage Center needs a fully renovated ADA compliant facility. They need that. That's part of what they need to be able to operate.
Right.
However, the way that the agreement is structured is such that the city is going to be tasked with, so the Heart of the Hills Heritage Center is saying, here's the money that was pledged for this facility because you're doing the construction. And then the city's saying, well, here's the money that was pledged for permanent fixtures because you're in charge of doing permanent fixtures. And to me, it's just as simple as that. I mean, that's the way I see it.
I would propose a different amendment, and if you wouldn't mind taking a look at this is for the
Okay.
council too. And I have copies for staff as well if you'd like to take a look. And I meant to put the Perry and Rick Stevens Foundation on that. But what we're doing here is explicitly excluding that accessibility compliance, and so my only amendment would be just to that part of the section, leave everything else how it is, but say that they would be included, that the Heritage Center would be also responsible for the all that stuff, including an elevator and improvements necessary for compliance with accessibility laws, which shall derive from the $250,000 from the Perry and Ruby Stevens Foundation. So right now, they're not responsible for it. I think this is a reasonable amendment to allow them to do that. And of course, the Heritage Center is always able to go and receive funding for this. And I want to make it clear, I'm not trying to shut this down or hinder it in any way. I'm just trying to provide what would be, I think, a common sense amendment to allow that to happen and then allow them to go out and receive more funding if they wanted to.
I would have preferred that we had this ahead of time and not just tonight,
Is it
Mr.
too-
Garcia.
Is it too complicated to understand?
It's not so much that it's too complicated, it's just that
Okay.
we kind of had an understanding that we would have those changes ahead of time. So I would like to move that we simply accept this agreement as presented. And I think, I think that's all that I would need to say, right? That
That's the
we-
city manager to finalize.
Okay, let me expand on that, that we authorize the city manager to finalize and execute the First Amendment to the A.C. Schreiner House Development and Management Agreement between the city of Kerrville, Texas, and the Heart of the Hills Heritage Center Incorporated as presented.
Okay, do we have a second to that?
I'll second.
All right, and I'll just say I would appreciate a little bit more consideration from council to at least look at it rather than just throw it off because you didn't receive it before the meeting. I would have appreciated at least that courtesy, but if we don't want to do that, I can live with the amended agreement as it is. I just think there's a more reasonable method for solving that.
And to just follow up on that, I mean, I also believe that when we had that understanding that we would present items before council, then that if that was important to you, then you would have given us that consideration as well. So
Yeah.
I kind of feel that way.
And we've had the agenda since Friday.
It's not that long though.
All right, okay. Got a motion second, all in favor of adopting this amendment, let it be known by the raised hand. And it's unanimous, okay.
Thank you.
With that, maybe we should start looking at, just respectfully to council, looking at probably receiving agendas or information about that and stuff like this sooner, because I'd have been happy to, if I had more time to look at this.
Yeah, we get it
Got a
on
long
Friday,
agenda.
we get it on Friday, we can look at it Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then come to council.
Sure.
Let me clarify one thing about the donation from the Stevens Foundation. The Stevens Foundation has done so much for so many in the Hill Country area. And, but they are basically geared toward, I don't want to misstate this, they're geared toward sick and disabled children and some sick and disabled adults. And so that's why their commitment to the ADA in this facility is the way it is. This fits in their mission statement. All right. 8C, I am really looking forward to this one.
Art donation agreement with LDB Corporation for donation of a work of art to the city of Kerrville, Texas. We have 0 speakers.
I've just got one slide for you. Whoop, passed it. We've got a proposed donation of a fantastic piece of art by the LD Corporation Estate. It is titled "Thanks for the Rain" by Mr. Joe Beeler. It was created in 1987. It's a bronze statue. It's roughly 10 feet by 11 feet. This is at the Brinkman Estate on Highway 16, which you may have seen in the newspaper, was in the process of going up for auction last week. The estate very generously has decided and agreed upon transferring this to the ownership of the city so that this beautiful piece of art could be publicly viewed by the citizens and tourists of Kerrville into the future, and also highlighting the many contributions of Mr. L.D. Brinkman to the community over decades and decades of his service in a number of different facets. Like we could go on for days on all the different elements that he contributed to the Kerrville community. So before you today are the stipulations of that agreement. The city would be assuming that piece of art and hopefully looking to, we very much, based off the actions today from council, want to try to incorporate that actually into the campus at the Heritage Center. And so the timing works out just right. And so we're hopeful for that. Obviously, there is a potential buyer of that piece of property. And so we're going to have to work through that. But for now, that piece of art has the ability to stay on site until we're ready to move that. But we're going to have to continue to work through that facet of the agreement. But we do have the ownership transfer from the estate to the city on the agreement for you tonight.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Kathleen Brinkman is here. So I
Brinkman,
think
the donor is here. Thank you. Please stand. Please stand.
This is for my husband. This is where he would want it to be. So I'm just thrilled that we managed to put this together. And, it's really important to me, and this is really a gift from Brink to the city that he loves so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
And the property has been sold.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, I'll tell you, this is gonna be a great location for that and much appreciated.
It will be an incredible location, and Brink used to own that house too, so.
I didn't know that, yeah. All right.
How fitting. Homes.
Yeah,
So it's very exciting.
Yes.
good.
Thank
good,
you.
Thank you so much.
Listen, I said it's gonna be a great location. We haven't voted to receive it yet.
We will.
Is there a motion?
I so move.
Yeah,
Good.
second.
Moving second?
I
All
said-
right, okay.
I had one question that I was asked from a constituent. I just want to clarify who's going to be responsible for the delivery and movement of that. Is that the city? Is that the current owner?
Yeah, so separate from the estate, we're working with Ms. Brinkman to evaluate the cleaning and moving costs, and we have an agreement between those parties to have those costs covered. And so, but that is separate from this agreement.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we got a motion second. All in favor of 8C, if you'd let me know by the raised hand. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Press, I hope you can get good pictures of this. You
So
know,
amazing.
anyway, okay, you may need to go up there and get them. Okay, all right. Thank you. Yeah, good, thank you. Okay, 8D, if you read that in for us.
Architect and Associates, PLLC, for architectural services relating to repairs and replacement of the roof, HVAC air conditioning, and other repairs to the Calu City Center for the Performing Arts in an amount not to exceed $112,760. We have zero speakers,
No,
no speakers.
Okay, we're back with more building projects for you to consider. Being the landlord of the Callow Theater, the city has some responsibilities to keep the shell of that building in a waterproof fashion. The project, or the first time it was remodeled was back in 2003. The Callow building had a new roof put on it and some work done. And that's been about 20 years. And almost 20 years now, the roof is starting to fail again, and it was time to do it again. There was some damage in the roofing system about 3 or 4 years ago. Some had to do with the flood, or excuse me, the freeze, damaged the roof, and we do have some water damage along inside the walls and so on that we found along the way too. So that has been repaired, and to give us a little bit more time to replace the whole roof. The HVAC was not completely repaired in 2000 or replaced in 2003, and so it's significantly outdated and needs to be updated as well. So this project brings all three of those: the repairs to our new roof, new HVAC, and then also the repairs to the water damage inside the building itself. Peter Lewis is actually here tonight. If you have any questions for him, his contract, he's going to bring on a team of people to help him design. He's going to be the orchestrator of it. He'll have a civil engineer, or excuse me, structural engineer that's going to do some of the internal work for making sure the new air conditioner systems are properly supported correctly. And then they're also going to have a roof contractor come in and clean up the plans really well, so we get good bid plans for how we want the roof to be built. And then we'll also have an HVAC engineer design the system, the air conditioning system, so we get the proper sizing and the proper airflow and so on. So with that, for a fee of it was $112,000. Exact number, $112,760. He was willing to perform those services for us. Him and his sub. So with that, I'll take any questions, or if you have any questions for Peter, he's happy to answer them as well.
okay, council, any questions on this one?
Can you provide some information on how we obtain a contractor like this, or through the bidding process, and we don't have to do that because of things like this?
So how do we select an architect?
Right.
So it's
Without the bidding process and everything like that.
So the professional services, we can't go out for bid. Actually, we have to select them. We select them on their credentials, and then we work with them to an acceptable fee. And if we can't afford them, we move to the next contractor. And so we can actually pick them and talk to them and see if they're willing to supply their services at a fee that we can afford, and that's what we've done here.
Just want to make sure I gave my constituents the right answer. I had several ask me about that. So
Fair enough.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, council, any other questions on this one?
Are we anticipating the repairs to be made this fiscal year as well?
So we're going to go out to bid, or we're going to get the design done. Right now, the type of roof that's going to be put up there, there's a back order on that type of roof from 6 to 8 months, depending on when we go out to bid. So we're hoping to move as fast as we can, but there again, supply and demand is going to be kind of the question there as to when are we ready to bid it, and when are those materials actually going to be ready for a contractor to bid.
So we'll be taking from reserve fund if we do this fiscal, and we'll be budgeting for it if it's next fiscal. Is that?
We're gonna know more this summer, once we are able to get into this process.
Okay.
We're gonna have better estimates of where that's trending, and we'll be able to reevaluate that
Okay.
capital budget item this summer with you all.
Okay. And there's not an allocation, a line item in the budget right now.
Correct.
So that is gonna be coming from our reserve, just for this portion.
Somewhere within the capital fund, correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we also have some endowment money that's also available for maintenance of that facility.
Yeah, I just know they've been patching that roof for a while now, and the longer
The longer it goes, the worse it gets.
they patch, the more it's gonna cost to inevitably get it replaced.
Yes, ma'am.
All right,
Okay.
any other questions, council? Okay, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to authorize the city manager to negotiate and finalize the professional service agreement with Peter W. Lewis, Architect and Associates.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion second, all in favor, raise a hand. Carries unanimously. Let's look at 9A.
Financial update for month ended February 28th, 2022.
Ms. Barron.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I will provide a brief financial update on month ended February 2022. So to start with, we'll talk about general fund revenues, property tax being our largest revenue source there. Total collections right now, right at $10 million. Again, 109,000 of that is from prior year taxes, penalty, and interest compared to 62,000 last year. And we talked a little bit about that last month and some of the reasons we think that that's related to the real estate market. And it's hard to say exactly what that's from, but either way, that's good that we're getting some old taxes paid. To date, we're 94% collected on property tax revenues, and we budget 98% collection. So we feel like we're really on track to meet our budget for that. On the sales tax front, current collections right at $4 million. Our budget was increased by $725,000 with that budget amendment that you approved last month. And we're still averaging about 15% over fiscal year 21 through February. We have received March numbers, but I haven't done any evaluation of those to the report yet, but it's at 14% over March of 21. So still really strong sales tax. March, keep in mind that was for January sales.
Have we slowly been starting to see a property tax revenue take, as of what we've budgeted and where we are at the year, slowly decrease? I can't
You
recall off
will.
the top.
So January is our largest collection month, if I understand the question.
Well,
January is our largest collection month, so you're gonna see that drop.
from the 98% last year to the 48 this year, or 98 this year, 98 last year, 94 this year.
94% as of the end of February. So we budget for the year that we will collect 98%.
is the year.
Mhm.
Okay.
So, I mean, to be 94% and we're only 5 months in,
Right.
to me, that
Yeah.
says we're
Just-
probably ahead of that.
Yeah,
I went
because
out.
we've got partial payments.
Correct.
Not just delinquent
Right.
taxes.
That's right. Some people have until June, so
Right.
there will be others trickling. We're still seeing property tax come in every week.
Mhm.
It's just less than we were seeing in January, so it's gonna slow down.
Okay, I want to confirm if that was a
Sure.
year to date or the whole
Correct, year to
thing.
date.
Okay.
But the 98% is year to date, what we estimate collection. We always allow that 2% uncollectible,
Right.
which goes to that prior year. And then so as each year we collect on that prior year from back taxes, virtually, basically is the way to describe that, I guess.
Okay, Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so looking at revenues by category, intergovernmental still running better than budget and better than FY21, primarily due to that reimbursement for KISD resource officers. So they paid earlier this year than last year, so that does skew the number a little bit, and also our EMS contract revenues, just timing of those payments. Recreation revenue better than budget but behind last year, and we are seeing some cancellation for RV spots primarily due to fuel prices is what our customers are reporting, so we're watching that closely. Services better than budget due to EMS revenues, very difficult to predict those, so it can go up and down at any time, and also a small increase in solid waste. Here's your revenues by category. This kind of comes back to what we were just talking about. Mr. Garcia, property tax budgeted at 35% of overall revenues. You can see that right now we're at 55%. So as sales tax, we're only at 43% collected of sales tax. So you're going to see those two numbers start coming in line with what we budget. And we like to just compare those percentages to what we're budgeting to make sure we're budgeting correctly so that we're following those percentages, right? Sales tax trends. So I've been showing this to you the last few months. I think it's interesting to see the last several years and how the trend lines kind of follow each other with the increases and also the impact to large events, so like winter storm. So you can see they're really consistent. April, we could see a decline due to the February winter storm Landon. However, I don't think we're going to see what we saw, the big drop that we saw in April of 21 with Uri. So steady growth, it gives us good information so that when we're forecasting, we can utilize these tools. General fund expenses, so better than budget in personnel and maintenance. Personnel primarily due to staff shortages we continue to talk about, and the timing of paving. Supplies running a little bit worse than budget, but I think it's important that we all realize just in the general fund alone, we're $37,000 more in fuel expenditures than we were the same year to date last year. So we're watching that closely. Departments are monitoring that and adjusting as necessary. With fuel prices being so high the last couple of months, we do have an increase in technology expense and some other supplies due to both inflation and then just timing of purchases. Overall expenses better than estimated budget to date. And the change in the transfer out there compared to 21 is largely related to the 1.4 million transfer out approved in the recent budget amendment. Here's just your expenses by category. Personnel that we just talked about, 70.5% of our overall budget. We're running about 63%. Everything else is fairly in line. A couple of small wins that both chiefs wanted me to report. So since the change in the pay plan, the police department has had multiple applications and has 2 contingent offers for police officers right now. Fire has had 4 applications and 1 person who was going to leave who's decided not to. So definitely making an impact. So again, much appreciated from all of our staff. Moving on to the water fund, current sales, $2.4 million. This is through February's billing, so through January's consumption. Water's still running behind last year, but February sales for January consumption were slightly above last year, and just looking at March where we are to date, we're seeing a substantial increase. So just tells me that once sewer averaging ended, people are going to start watering. It's been really dry. Sewer sales still running better than budget. Your new sewer residential averages will be reflected on April bills. So we don't know exactly what the impact is going to be one way or the other, but we're completing that process right now. Okay, looking at revenues by category here as we show them in the budget book. Total fund revenues have made up some ground compared to what I've been reporting to you the last few months compared to estimated budget. Still the shortfall in the other category, and again, that's primarily related to those water tap fees. So we're hoping as more developments kick off that we'll be able to make up some ground there too. Revenues by category, so water is budgeted at 49.8% and sewer at 43.7%. So we're a little bit off of what our budget is, but keep in mind we haven't really gone into watering season yet. So we're just watching to see how that lines up as we continue to go through the year.
Didn't we have the same situation last year?
We did. But last year, at some period of time, we had a heavy rainfall, and so we weren't. This year we had heavy rainfall, then we went a couple of months and then it started sewer averaging. So, you know, it was already kind of out of the water season before it started getting dry. Okay, looking at water fund expenses, better than budget in most categories, keeping in mind that a large portion of supplies and maintenance is driven by water production. So water production's been down, so with consumption, so we could see that come up. Gas is in the supplies category, so we're watching that as well. Again, departments are monitoring and adjusting. And just a clarification, I know we talk about capital outlay a lot. Anything in the water fund that we refer to as capital outlay is anything new we put in the ground. So new meters, new lines, new pipe, any of that stuff starts building that capital asset over the year, and it's grouped together. And then anything else incidental that maybe a department might buy in their budget that's over $5,000 is also included in there. So maybe they buy a mower or something like that. So a little bit different than the general fund. Here's your expenses by category. So again, transfer percent out is higher than budget, basically due to timing, and then also the recent budget amendment is affecting those transfers as well. And then all the other categories align really closely with how we're budgeting. This was an interesting chart I thought I'd just share as we're talking about water consumption. This is from the National Weather Service. It's a spring outlook, so just thought it was interesting to share. They're expecting above normal temperatures for the spring, below normal rainfall, and then below normal river flooding, and above normal fire weather, which we continue to hear about on the news and in press releases. So I thought this was an interesting chart that I thought I would share. Okay, moving on to the smaller funds, looking at the golf fund, we do show a 20% revenue growth over last year, but keep in mind that this was for February. So February of 21, the golf course was closed for 10 days as opposed to 7 days this year. So that's going to skew that percentage a little bit. I talked to Bobby, and he's reporting that Region 4 high school 3A boys and girls tournaments are going to be held here. This is the second year in a row. So last year they had attracted them here, and when they came, they liked it so much they decided to host the tennis tournament as well this year. So they're coming back with golf and tennis. So those are big events that are going to bring a lot of people here to eat and sleep and shop. On the development services side, revenues from permits and fees are behind budget, but better than fiscal year 21. We did have a pretty big project kickoff for plan review in March, so you'll be seeing the revenue from that as I report in March. And we're better than budget and better than last year in expenses. And again, those expenses are pretty stable in development services, so not a lot of flexibility there because there are a lot of personnel. Okay, in the hot fund, February revenues are for January stay, so keep that in mind as you're looking here. 19% ahead of fiscal year 21. Eclipse planning has already started, and the committee has started to meet regarding our plans for that. And we're closely monitoring the impact of inflation, especially fuel prices right now related to travel. I included this graph down here, kind of the same thing I was doing for sales tax, just to kind of give you a look at how the trend line works. You'll notice the big dip there in May of 2020 was related to COVID, when hotels really weren't operating at all. Okay, upcoming items. So we're still reviewing division budget requests and estimating revenues pretty much every day. We've submitted our application for our financial report award, and then we'll start meeting with the budget committee here in April and May. And then we have set council budget workshops for the summer, June 16th and July 19th. And then we'll be filing the proposed budget on the 31st.
Can you go back to that slide just real quick?
I will.
Thank you.
Julie,
Also
I
wanted
have
to mention, sorry,
Go ahead.
that we have ordered the vehicle for the K-9 unit. So who knows when it'll be here with the way things are, but we have ordered it, and so that requisition has gone out. So good news there.
Any indication on property tax assessments?
No, I talked to them today. We'll be getting values. I should be getting a preliminary roll. It'll be third week of April, something like that, before I
So
get.
all of the citizens should be checking their mail right now?
I would say yes.
Yeah, next few weeks.
I would say yes, because the preliminary roll will come to us in April. So right now, as we're estimating, we're just estimating on a growth factor.
And let us be clear, the council doesn't have anything to do with property tax
That's correct.
assessments.
Right.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Ms. Eigner?
Yes, just a curiosity question. Do you have the new meter system all over town?
We do not yet. So we're working on phase 2. So last count, we're over 50% being read electronically. So Tony gives me a report every week of how they're tracking every time they do a new cycle. So we still have River Hills to be installed, and we have Summit to be installed, and that'll be in fiscal year 24 with budget approval.
I've seen a lot of blue all around.
You'll see
so I
blue,
wonder-
and then also the flat round antennas that sit flush in the top of the lid rather than just a solid lid with the antenna inside. That's the major difference.
I was noticing that the Gulf Fund is 20% ahead of last year, and the hotel occupancy tax is only 19% ahead of 2021. Can you and your staff kind of work to bring
Sure.
that up?
If you'd like to file a complaint,
What?
we can open up a, would you like to file a complaint with someone? No, okay.
No.
No, that, I thought that was interesting too, that it's super close,
Mm-hmm.
super close. But both, I mean, doing really strong, which tells me people are coming to Kerrville.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Council, other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Julie.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have one more item?
Two more.
Oh, a couple more, okay, yeah. Board appointments, 10A, would you read that in for us?
Appointments to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. We have no citizen speakers.
Councilmember Eichner and I are charged with being the interview team and making the recommendation to you all. And we all received the applicants, so I know you've had a chance to look at those. We had 8 applications, and honestly, they were all outstanding. If any of the applicants, if there were only 3 submitted, I would have been very comfortable with those 3. That being said, Judy and I discussed our thoughts, and so I was gonna propose 3 names. And if you have any questions, or Judy, if you wanna add anything to that after I make the recommendation, please do so. For the Parks Board, I'm going to recommend Cabe Johnson, Lisa Nye Saladin, and Nicholas Cantrell for the Parks Board.
I will second that.
Okay. Discussion on that matter.
I just want to say that I think Ashley and her team just deserve an attaboy. I think the fact that we had 8 people that have applied, it just says a mighty lot.
And they're such qualified
yes, and they're
applicants,
super
all by their
qualified.
own rights.
Yes, so you guys are doing a great job, and keep it up. And I echo what Kim said. They're all qualified. I wish we could have put them all on.
And for those who we're not selecting tonight, I would encourage those applicants to keep their application on file. I would not have removed anyone from consideration based on their application. So it's a good problem to have.
Hard choices sometimes.
So is
I
there
have a motion. I'll make that in the form of a motion then. I move that we appoint Cabe Johnson, Lisa Nye Saladin, and Nicholas Cantrell to the Parks.
And we got a second, Ms. Eigner, okay. All in favor, let it be a number of raised hands, and it passes unanimously. Now, appointments to the Building Board of Adjustment and Appeals Board. This could go to executive session. Is there any need to?
Mayor, Councilmember Clarkson and I are the interview team for this board, and we don't seem that there needs to be, we need to go into executive session unless any other council member feels like we do.
Okay.
So if I may, we want to read it in first.
Nobody else?
Good.
Okay.
Should we read it in first? And then I'll proceed.
Appointments to the Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals Board. And of course, this item is eligible for the executive session under 551.074.
Thank you, ma'am. First of all, I just want to thank all the applicants who applied, of course, again. I give a brief history before I make our recommendation. At our November 9th regular meeting last year, we considered the appointment of 2 applicants. At that meeting, the council realized that neither member fell within the qualifications of the board, so we didn't make an appointment, and then we asked staff to look at the qualifications and the structure of this board and return back to us with some type of amendments. So since then, staff has worked to do that. Councilmember Clarkson and I met with staff to do that, and as we did today, we adopted the second reading of Ordinance number 2022-14. One of the questions that was asked at that meeting was whether the 2 applicants who were considered the last time, the initial time when we discussed it, were going to be coming back to us for consideration. And that was acknowledged a yes. There may have been a little bit of confusion, but the two applicants who are listed here on the agenda bill are not the two applicants that we originally considered. And so although I do appreciate their interest and their commitment to serve our community, I wouldn't want to let the first two applicants fall through the cracks while we're working to amend that. And so with that said, Mike Asmus and Steve Van Patten, who were considered at that November meeting, now meet the qualifications to serve on that board. I can get to the Mr. Van Patten. Stephen Patten is a contractor, so he would fall under one of those categories, and he was also previously the chief building official, so he has prior experience in almost all of those categories. And then Mike Asmus is in real estate, so he would fall under that category. So with that, I would formally recommend and make a motion to appoint Mike Asmus and Steve Van Patten to the Building Board of Adjustment and Appeals.
All right. Ms. Clarkson, you want a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay. The motion second. All in favor, let me know by the raised hands. Okay, all right, good, thank you. Okay, what about future agenda items? Okay,
Yes.
okay,
I had one. We've had a request for the possibility of a sidewalk going from the Vets Hospital to the Loop on 27. So I would just like, if we could ask staff between the hours of 12 and 3 in the morning when they have time, but if they could take a look at what it might cost us, what it might entail. Are there restrictions? Are there things that will prevent us from doing that? If we could just get a picture of what that might look like. And
all right, is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor of including that on a future agenda? Okay, it passes unanimously. All right. Yes.
I would like us to ask staff to take a look at the smoking issue that was brought up earlier this evening and get any background information on it. We got a copy of the ordinance, so I'll be taking a look at it. But from now and within the next 2 months, if we can get something back from staff and whether we need to look at amending that ordinance or not, just at least a report back to staff, and then council, I guess, can give further direction on what we want to do with that.
Amending which ordinance?
That was the smoking ordinance, so it would really be Article 3 of the.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll second that.
yeah, right, okay. All right, we've got a motion and a second, okay? All right, regarding the smoking issue, okay, all in favor, let it be known by the raised hand. Okay, and that is unanimous. I will say, when the no smoking ordinance was first introduced in Kerrville, it was not very popular. There is one restaurant here in town, when you go into the restaurant, there's one table by the door, that was the no smoking section. And that was it. So, anyway, we've moved on. All right, it is 7:18. Thank you for being here, and we're adjourned.